I feel like a lot of people who believe in like diversity and inclusiveness would be like, well, I should be able to do anything. I should be included in everything. That's why there are girls in the Boy Scouts or the Scouts. I don't know what they're called now, but
yeah, I think there's girls. I mean, I just saw them selling some cookies, so there's still Girl Scouts are still popping. So
well, it's because the Boy Scouts don't sell.
Well, they do popcorn.
No one buys that.
Well,
no, they don't have Thin Mint popcorn.
No, they don't. They should do that.
Boundaries. Do you think we need more of them or less of them?
It seems like the last few years, the agenda's been just pushing them away because we're afraid of hurting people. I think we got to a point where we want to be so inclusive that we don't want to tell nobody no.
Right.
So when you don't want to use the word no or say you don't agree with this because you're afraid of being
for being an ism, acist, or something.
Yeah, because that's what happens. You get put in that group. And it could be, honestly, you're not really part of that group. You just have a differing opinion. And when you have a different opinion, then that's when people have issues.
If you grew up in a particular environment,
of course,
you could say that you are a product of that environment, mainly because that's how you were raised. That's where your lessons have come from. That's who you are. It doesn't necessarily have to do with you taking from that culture. You have lived that culture.
Of course.
But it's frowned upon because they don't look like the people that would normally come from that culture. All right, so let's talk about self-identification and boundaries.
Okay.
So we all know the different things going on.
There's a lot of labels.
Transracial.
That's been one I've been hearing a little bit more about, slowly but surely.
Like for me, that's new. Explain to people what that is.
For me, I've been hearing it's basically say your exterior says you're of a different ethnicity or culture, but you don't feel like you are inside.
Right.
So there's people who look like black and they think they identify as being white. They'll check the bubble for job applications. They even tell that.
Right.
So
I do that anyway, though. I'll be showing up to interviews just to surprise motherfuckers.
Me too. My name. So it just helps. You just don't even let's keep them guessing. I guess think about this though. This is kind of fascinating. Think about if you're mixed already with something.
Yeah.
And you look more like the other side of whatever you're mixed with, but you don't identify with that.
Right.
So isn't it in a way something that people have already been dealing with, but now other people are jumping on to kind of make it, not necessarily make an excuse, but make it seem like they can identify with that?
Well,
even though,
it's how do you identify with a look? You're either identifying with the culture side of it.
Yeah.
Because what is that chick who tried to identify as black and was
man,
yeah.
Everyone was what was her name?
It doesn't matter.
But I know who you're talking about. She had braids. She was tan. Everyone thought she was either mixed, or very light complected.
Right.
Come to find out, because people do research on the internet. Caucasian, European, German, whatever descendant she is. And when asked about it, she was like, "Oh well, it was I'm part of this culture. It's what I identify at," and that's when that really started happening. That was probably 7-8 years ago when she was making
that was a while ago.
But we still see that today, where there's especially the women that look like they could be of African descent or Latino or Afro dialect or something, and they're not.
Right.
They look like it, but they use it and they take advantage of the culture. And granted, is it on the culture to say something about it?
Right.
Or do you just allow the person to do whatever they want?
Let's talk about boundaries. So the boundaries between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Because I know in a lot of Korean cultures, they're starting to get the corn rolls and things that because they think it's cool. I don't think I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing it to just steal from the culture, but let's talk about cultural appropriation and how a lot of people are doing it, but is it actually that, or are they showing appreciation? Because it's really a thin line. That's a really light boundary between the two.
Well, it's attention, because I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, Justin Bieber got called on it because I think he was doing dreads or braids or something like that, and people were calling him on it. And instead of sticking to his guns and saying, "Hey, this is something that I wanted to do and I enjoy it," he immediately apologized, took everything down, so it made it look like he was doing cultural appropriation at that.
Well, So I guess, okay, I just defined my own thing in my head. So for
Yeah.
me, cultural appropriation would be taking the beneficial things from one culture,
Okay.
but not experiencing or realizing any of the negative aspects of said culture.
Okay.
So that happens a lot in the black culture. A lot of hip hop is mainstream, so a lot of people have taken that, but a lot of negative aspects that go on in the African American community. But at some point, I feel like if you have, and I bring this up because I watched a Jubilee video, basically one of those ones where which one of these guys is not black,
Yeah.
and they had like one white guy, and obviously they lost the game. The white guy, he was, yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell, but if you grew up in a particular environment,
Of course.
you could say that you are a product of that environment, mainly because that's how you were raised, that's where your lessons have come from, that's who you are. It doesn't necessarily have to do with you taking from that culture. You have lived that culture.
Of course.
But it's frowned upon because they don't look like the people that would normally come from that culture.
Or even reverse it. So we grew up in a suburban area, mixed people. We had people that are Arabic. We had Hispanic. We had white. We had everything. So the way we speak, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we carry ourselves, our interests vary from what the mainstream media or social media would portray us as.
Right.
And we've covered this before in previous topics, but not being considered that. Like people jokingly saying that, oh man, you're an Oreo, or oh, you're whiter than I am. People joke around because you are different than what they believe a person of color, a black, should be.
The gatekeepers of blackness.
Exactly. I'm like, that's weird. So I have to sag my pants, do all this stuff to check a box. Got it. But you're right. We're a product of our environment. The opportunities we had. I mean, doing things like Upper Bound, shout out to Upper Bound, where we got to be around even more diverse people.
Right.
And got credits for school and got opportunities.
So let's flip it on its head. So take that and apply it to the people who want to identify as not people and want to be cats and dogs. And teachers are forced to address these kids as such because we're living in such a inclusive state.
I think with no boundaries, and it's just we're not drawing a line, that it's going to continue to get kind of awry out of it because people are afraid to say no or to just be honest with themselves and speak their truth and know that, okay, this is getting, you may think you're a guinea pig, but in the way the world works, that's not how it works. You got to go get a job one day, and you think that people are just going to say, okay, well, Glenn here is a guinea pig, and we've got to put a wheel out for him and a little bit of water and make sure he's good to go.
Explain it like this. There are animal rights and then there are human rights.
Yeah.
So if you're identifying as something that is not human, then are you waiving your human rights at that point?
No, because I think it is more of a situation where now we want appropriation. So I want the benefits of being treated different, look differently, but I don't want none of the cons with it. Right. I don't want to be treated like said animals. I don't want you to think that I'm now a lower being than what humans, because humans sit at the top of the food chain and everything else kind of falls down there. So
there you go. Animal appropriation. Stop that.
There we go. See, there we go. New term.
So there's that, and there's also the whole and I'm treading lightly here, but the whole subject when it comes to changing of your sexuality.
Okay.
People born one way and then decide they want to change another. So that could come down to a number of things. People live an experience. I was reading an article of this, I believe she was a woman, or it was a doctor. Born a woman, but they were raised as a man, and she didn't realize that she wasn't a man until later on in her life, to where she had to actually go to another doctor, and they were looking like, well, you are not what you say you are. So what that does is that puts into account and adds some validity to our first statement of, if you're living in that environment and you're raised in that environment, then are you a product of that said environment?
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
The biggest lie that parents tell their children is that you can be anything. I mean, it's in good faith because it's to tell them that they should shoot for the stars when it comes to whatever their career aspirations would be.
Of course.
But then kids just want to be fucking cats.
It comes from a good place, but these kids are pretty smart these days. So if you're telling me I can be and do anything, did you want to be what you are right now? Could you have been more? Should you have been more? So if you're telling me to do it, why didn't you do it? So there's that aspect too. Practice what you preach.
Yep, that kid would definitely get put in timeout. You're not talking about. How dare you?
How dare you use sound logic with me? Well, but yeah, you're right. With the way the world has been going, with no boundaries, it's all gray now. I think we don't want to do black and white, because then that would say that something's wrong and something's right. But maybe your right is wrong to me, and maybe my wrong is right to you. Whatever.
It's a game of perception, though.
Yes.
It's 100% a game of perception. But there's always going to be black and white in the world.
Absolutely.
And there's going to be gray in between. It's a
gradient. But they're trying to make it more gray. They're trying to say, well,
like, oh, it's gray this much and black and white here. No.
They're trying to make it a well and a but to make an excuse, or make an exception for somebody or something for this reason. Well, no. We got to make an exception because this person's a dinosaur, or this person is not what you think they are. This is what they see themselves as. And we're all for supporting people in what they believe they are, but when we're based in reality,
yeah, I'm not gonna address someone as a dinosaur.
I'm not either.
Even if they're dressed up in the inflatable dinosaur suits, I'm gonna be like, look here,
Pat, get on back, man. Fall back.
That's the thing about changing the status quo. It takes time. It takes scientific study. It takes It takes a lot of things to change the public perception. But there are certain things that I'm just not ready to move on yet.
Me neither. I agree.
Other than that, boundaries. Do you think we need more of them or less of them?
It seems like the last few years, the agenda's been just waving, pushing them away because we're afraid of hurting people. I think we got to a point where we want to be so inclusive that we don't want to tell nobody no.
Right.
So when you don't want to use the word no or say you don't agree with this because you're afraid of being
for being an ism, acist, or something.
Yeah, because that's what happens. You get put in that group, and it could be, honestly, you're not really part of that group. You just have a differing opinion. And when you have a different opinion, then that's when people have issues. Now you're going to go, you side with this group of people. Now we're assigning groups and teams.
Right.
And that's not what I'm even a part of.
Is there something wrong with exclusivity?
No, I don't think so at all.
Because people, I feel like a lot of people who believe in like diversity and inclusiveness would be like, well, I should be able to do anything I should be included in everything. That's why there are girls in the Boy Scouts or the Scouts. I don't know what they're called now, but
yeah, I think there's girls. I just saw them selling some cookies, so there's still Girl Scouts are still popping. So
it's because the Boy Scouts don't sell shit.
Well, they do popcorn.
No one buys that.
Well.
No, they don't have Thin Mint popcorn.
No, they don't. They should do that. Let them know.
But exclusivity is what makes us different. We're always acknowledging that we're different.
Of course.
We come from different cultures. We obviously look different. You can't put me and some white dude next to each other like, oh, these guys they're the same. Maybe because we're both men, but culturally we're different. We obviously look different.
Yeah, different experiences, different upbringings, different struggles, different whatever. There's too many variables.
So I feel like diversity is the murder of culture in itself.
Okay.
Yeah, diversity is the murder of culture itself, because we're going to get to a point down the line where everyone's living the same life. We're all bots, as you will.
We shouldn't just highlight that we're different, but we shouldn't sit here and just going back to just giving somebody an opportunity because they check a box. And I think that's where we're getting to a point. That's why all these Disney, any company down the line is doing that. It's not about because I look like a certain way or I come off as a certain way that you should do it. It should be based on merit, based on what you actually bring.
It's appreciation. And like one of the reasons why I love cosplay is like it's inclusive. Everyone can do it.
Absolutely.
It's a version of cultural appreciation that is pretty much universally accepted.
Absolutely.
Because no one's going around like, hey, Ariel wasn't black. Well, I guess some people are saying that.
Yeah.
But you don't see that at like Comic-Cons and things like that. No.
But I love it, and that's the aspect that I love about it too. It's just you're able to embody the character. Your mannerisms change, the way you speak. your vocal, everything about you, you become this character, what you base this character on in your head, and it's such an acceptable thing. More
right.
now
And all these characters are like Japanese, because a lot of them come from anime or cartoons or whatever, or they're either white. There's not as many black characters.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to be Goku or Naruto or the Itachi or whatever.
Yeah.
Because these are just cool characters, and it doesn't matter what you look like.
And you got multiple people doing it. Yeah, are you gonna see people with different levels of creativity? Like, you got this person who's obviously that put a lot of months and years into this, and you got somebody that's brand new. The coolest thing about the community is you may have 10 people that are looking like Deadpool. Yeah. You may have 15 people looking like Goku, but no matter what the level is, everyone's super supportive of it.
Right.
Everybody respects everybody, and that's one thing I love about that.
Other than that, you got anything else?
That's it for me. That would encompass everything.
Encompassed everything. All right. Self-identification and boundaries. My name is Malcolm Eugene. Make sure you subscribe.
Hit that notification bell. Comments, likes, guys. 1,000 subscribers. That is the goal.
That's the goal. We need 825 more.
Yes. So keep on liking, keep on subscribing, keep on helping. We'll keep pumping out the content for you. We appreciate it.
With that said, we are outro.